like he's making a difference in your life. But when you cross over into neediness, that dynamic shifts. Neediness is about constantly seeking external validation. It's about depending on him to fix everything for you, emotionally and otherwise. It's about the unspoken message that without him you wouldn't be able to cope. This makes him feel pressured and overburdened. He wants to be your support, but he doesn't want to be the sole source of your emotional well-being. The second symptom of brainwashing is that you presume everyone wants you to be better. A man falls deeply in love when he feels like he is a positive addition to your life, not the thing holding it all together. You see, men are attracted to strong, independent women who have their own lives, their own passions, and their own purpose. It's incredibly attractive when you know who you are, what you want, and where you're going. When you're living your life to the fullest, pursuing your goals and maintaining your own sense of identity, he looks at you and thinks, wow, I admire that. She's living her best life, and I get to be part of it. When you're needy, however, you're signaling to him that you're not whole on your own, that you're searching for someone else to complete you. And while a man might feel sympathy for you or want to take care of you, that doesn't necessarily make him fall in love with you. He might stay, but he won't be as deeply invested as he would if you were whole and independent. Now, I'm not saying you can't rely on him or that you have to do everything alone. There are times when you'll need his support just as he will need yours. That's the beauty of a relationship: mutual support, mutual respect, and mutual love. But the key is to never lose sight of who you are. Never forget that you are complete on your own. When you need something, it's okay to ask for it, but make sure that he's stepping in because he wants to help, not because he feels like he's the only one who can fix things. The truth is, a man loves the feeling of being needed, but only when he knows he's contributing to your life in a meaningful, positive way. He falls deeply in love when he feels like he's making a real impact, but that impact should be something that enhances your life, not carries it. So if you want a man to fall in love with you, don't let him become your emotional crutch. Be strong, be independent, and know that your happiness, your confidence, and your worth come from within. When you embrace that truth, you'll create a relationship that's built on respect, balance, and deep love. And that's the kind of love that lasts. Let me tell you something that I believe is one of the most powerful forces in any relationship: confidence. Confidence is like a magnet. It draws people to you, it commands attention, and it creates a sense of attraction that's irresistible. Now, I'm not talking about arrogance, and I'm not talking about pretending to be something you're not. I'm talking about real confidence, the kind that comes from knowing your worth, standing firm in who you are, and walking through the world with a sense of purpose. Confidence doesn't need validation from others. Confidence doesn't need constant reassurance. Confidence comes from within. It's about knowing that you are enough, just as you are, and owning that truth without apology. And let me tell you, when you embrace that kind of confidence, it's magnetic. People can't help but be drawn to it. Now, here's the thing. Confidence isn't about being perfect, and it's definitely not about being the loudest person in the room. It's about being comfortable in your own skin. It's about walking into any room and knowing that no matter what anyone else thinks, you own your value. You don't need to prove anything to anyone. You're already enough. And when it comes to relationships, especially with men, confidence is one of the most attractive qualities you can bring to the table. Why? Because men, just like women, want to be around someone who knows their worth. They want to be with someone who's not afraid to stand up for themselves, who knows what they want, and who doesn't apologize for having high standards. Confidence signals strength, independence, and self-respect. It says, I know who I am, and I know what I deserve. And that is incredibly magnetic. Think about it. When you're confident, you're not chasing. You're not desperately trying to get his attention or prove your worth. You're not second-guessing yourself or overanalyzing every interaction. Confidence means you stand tall in your own power, and that energy is unmatched. But here's the thing, and it's important. Confidence isn't something that happens overnight. It's a practice. It's something you build day by day. It starts with changing the way you see yourself. Instead of focusing on your flaws or comparing yourself to others, you start to recognize your strengths. You start to realize that your uniqueness is your power. When you're confident, you don't let other people's opinions define your self-worth. You don't need constant validation from your partner, your friends, or anyone else. You already know your value. And when you live with that mindset, you attract people who recognize and appreciate that. Confidence also means being able to set boundaries. It means saying no when something doesn't align with your values or your needs. It means not being afraid to speak up when something isn't right, even if it's uncomfortable. And guess what? Men respect that. They respect women who know what they want and aren't afraid to stand up for themselves. It's incredibly attractive to see someone who is unapologetically themselves, who isn't afraid to speak their truth and who doesn't shrink to fit in. But here's the twist. Confidence is not about being flawless. It's not about being perfect. In fact, it's quite the opposite. Confidence grows when you embrace your imperfections. It's about owning your quirks, your mistakes, your past, and everything that makes you, you. Men don't fall in love with a perfect version of you. They fall in love with the real you. The woman who is comfortable in her own skin, who embraces her flaws, and who owns her journey. When you have that kind of confidence, you give off an energy that says, I'm enough and I know it. And when you walk through life with that kind of energy, you become magnetic. You become the person that people want to be around because you radiate positivity, self-assuredness, and strength. And men? They're drawn to that like a moth to a flame. But here's the real secret. When you have that kind of inner confidence, you stop seeking external validation. You stop trying to get his attention or win his approval. Instead, you become the kind of person who naturally attracts attention because you're already whole. You're already complete. You're already at peace with who you are. And when you show up like that, it's impossible not to stand out. So if you want a man to fall deeply in love with you, start with yourself. Start by embracing your worth, your strengths, and your imperfections. Start by cultivating that quiet, unshakable confidence that comes from knowing who you are and not needing anyone else's approval. When you do that, you'll stop chasing love and start attracting it. You'll stop doubting yourself and start living with a sense of purpose and power that no one can ignore. Confidence is magnetic, and when you have it, love will follow. Because the right person will see that confidence and want to be a part of your journey, not because they feel like they have to, but because they want to. That is the kind of love that lasts. Let's talk about something that's so incredibly powerful in relationships, yet often overlooked. Emotional intelligence. It's a term that gets thrown around a lot, but when it comes to making a man fall deeply in love with you, emotional intelligence is not just important, it's essential. If you're wondering what emotional intelligence is, it's the ability to recognize, understand, and manage not just your own emotions, but also the emotions of others. It's about empathy, emotional awareness, and the ability to navigate life's ups and downs with grace and clarity. And let me tell you, this is a game changer in relationships. Now, why does emotional intelligence matter so much in love? Because relationships, especially intimate ones, are emotional experiences. They're not just about shared interests or physical